Hello everyone, welcome back to Edgington, the city on the edge, here in Timber and Stone 1.52. Oh, is this roof actually, like, in need of materials? Is that why that's not getting built? I presume it is. That's shingles too, so yes, it's out of materials, because we have no wood. Wood planks, there we go. Add 50. And... add 50. Why not? Okay. Looks like we're gonna have to cut up some wood soon. But anyways, it is midday here on day 54. We've just had 2 different people arrive, so yay for that. I have a couple more names. I literally have 2 names in my lists right now, so hopefully, we don't get like 3 people now. We'll find out. We did actually, over the course of the night, hit our cap on food. Can you believe it? We're generating more food than we actually had storage for, but hopefully that doesn't prove to be an issue. There's a bunch of chopped down trees here. Can I presume that's from the goblins? And oh boy, I still have a bunch of bodies. Where's Sawtooth? I don't see Sawtooth anywhere. Let's mark these up, shall we? I don't really have a need for spiders, but we can turn spider silk into cloth that we can turn into more armor, so there is that, at least. Nope, I want the corpse. Give me corpse. There. Right. So, whilst I'm just flying around, marking up goblins and spiders and wolves, oh my, our topic for today is fantasy races. Specifically, why I really like dwarves. Because your typical makeup of a fantasy world, post-Tolkien, has humans, some form of halfling race, be they hobbits or gnomes or whatever, and elves and dwarves. Usually the elves and the dwarves don't like each other for some reason. And typically speaking, I will play human characters or elven characters. I'll usually play some kind of wizard or sorcerer or something of that ilk. Very rarely will you see me playing some kind of melee-oriented character, some kind of character that doesn't have a magical response to something. Which happens in Magic the Gathering as well, actually. I always play counterspells. But always, pretty much without doubt, also gets to Witchy, now level 14, almost without doubt, I will end up really liking the dwarves. I like to write dwarves into my stories, I like to put dwarves high on my list of NPCs and stuff, but the question here is why? Why do I like dwarves? What is it about the dwarves that always appeals to me? And the first thing that people will put in the comments is it's because I'm short and so are they. And the answer is no, because I am short for humans. I am not short for dwarves. By dwarves, I'm actually quite tall, especially... oh, storage cap reached on mining power. Especially in D&D, I'm actually a couple inches taller than dwarves are supposed to be. And I don't see Sawtooth anywhere. Is that anywhere? Oh, that's over there. Yeah, there's Sawtooth. Foraging. Yeah, gathering spider silk. And Blair's leveling up as well. Yay. Okay. So yeah, I definitely don't like the dwarves just because they're short. That might be a contributing factor, possibly, but that's not why I like them. And we might need to either block off this section or add... okay, maybe we can... no, we can't. Yeah, we might have to block off a section here, because I don't think I have enough space to put these things down. Curse my cherry-picking from the floor ways. Oh, that camera's leveled up as well. Okay then, dig mine. Dig out this wall. Because that'll give me the space I need. Hopefully soon. Now there's a number of character traits that are always given to dwarven races in fantasy. It's sort of their cliches, I guess, their tropes. Which is, they like to live underground. They like to work with stone. They're big, muscly kind of dudes. They wear thick armor that's usually very polygonal, rather than being smooth and curved. They always have facial hair that could put Bigfoot to shame. And they're always, they're usually pretty proud guys. They're always pretty, being a dwarf is great, and we're gonna... They also have Scottish accents as well, thank you again, Tolkien. They're always like, being a dwarf is great, and you're gonna, like, go punch an elf in the face. All sorts, such as that. And I think what appeals to me, for the most part, is... they're usually pretty united. Like, you'll see them having fights with each other, you'll see them, like, getting into scraps at the tavern and whatnot, but usually, dwarves have a fairly rigorous sense of camaraderie. They're always, like... You can insult a dwarf's clan and he'll go after you, but if another dwarf insults their clan, yeah, they'll usually have misgivings, and that's about the extent it'll be, but dwarves are pretty, like... they're pretty good at sticking together as a people. And they're usually pretty friendly, for the most part. They don't seem to like elves very much, but then elves tend to be their total opposite. They're tall, they're leaf, they're pretty, rounded and whatnot. They work with nature on the surface. Work out their trees and stuff, but dwarves not so much. They also tend to be pretty good engineers. They will make some beautiful things, they will smith some gorgeous weapons and such. And they'll do things that are several orders of magnitude taller than they are, when the roof above it should cave in on them instead. And yeah, we really need to... I'm going to at least try and put a temporary mining stockpile somewhere near the surface here. I'm going to get rid of it since we actually have space down below, but give you guys something that you put that stuff, because you're moving so slowly. Eesh. And there's a big stretch of road I can put back in here. Let's put that in, shall we? But yeah, dwarves tend to be industrial, they tend to be engineering, they know about alchemy, they know about mining and smithing and stuff. They're the guys who have knowledge that's probably a lot closer to where I'm from in the world than to elves and stuff. Which begs the question why I always go with elves. I just prefer elves in terms of characters. But I like dwarves as a race, I always love them. And I was reading recently, actually, about the origins of dwarves inside of the Lord of the Rings, inside of Middle-earth. And the story goes that the elves were slotted to be the first race of Middle-earth. They would turn up, and then everything after that would follow. So humans weren't meant to be the first in the world. But I forget who... I want to say Aule. I'm probably very wrong there if there's any Tolkien fans around, but... one of the Maiar liked the way the elves were looking, and took a stab at making a race of their own, and the first of that was the Dwarves, the 12 founding fathers of the Dwarves. And he was just going around to teaching them Kuzdul, when somebody else turned up and said, hey, that's not right, we can't have these guys, we're supposed to be having the elves as the first ones. Anyway, you're not supposed to be making living things at all. Yada yada yada. So he got in trouble, basically. And just as he was about to, literally just as he was, as he raised his hammer to smite the dwarves, to destroy them, and the dwarves were cowering before him and everything, the big boss pops in and says, hang on, we can keep the dwarves, but they just can't be the first race, so they have to wait until after the elves. And they put them to sleep, they scattered them, 12 in 12 different locations around Middle-earth, and there they are comatose until quite a while after the elves appeared. And I just thought, imagine starting a video game like that. Imagine the last thing that you remember is essentially your creator god lifting a hammer to destroy you, and the next thing that you remember is waking up in a cave alone. And then the next thing that you do is you have to go out and explore this world that looks nothing like what you remember. And you didn't even remember that much of it to begin with. And then you basically just have to unite, because you find the elves. And relationships with the elves were fairly good. for the Dwarves initially. It was only after, Fimble? I forget what his name was, but it was only, like, after a rather unfortunate incident with trading and a necklace passed that they actually started to have bad relations. But they were quite friendly. The Elves were bewildered by these things, because they're wandering around and they find the Dwarves and they're all like, hang on. You're not supposed to be here. We have, like, a direct line to gods, and I'm pretty sure they said you're not supposed to be here. What on earth is going on here? What on Middle-earth, rather? Is that sword? Yeah, that's sword. Going back. But, nonetheless, they took it in stride, eventually. And Elves are always fairly uppity inside of, Lord of the Rings, but they took it in stride, nonetheless. And, like, there's one particular founding father who has particular esteem in terms of Middle-earth and the Dwarves and such, and that happens to, of course, be Durin. Also known as Durin the Deathless, because he lived to an incredible age, to the point where the Dwarves aren't terribly convinced he's actually going to, like, stay dead. The Dwarves are pretty certain that he's going to wake up at some point, like he did the first time, after he was nearly smitten by his god. And he'll come back and lead the glorious age of the Dwarves. So of course the Dwarves are going to be in Middle-earth for a very long time, even after the Elves have passed and whatnot. And Durin wakes up, he's alone, he wakes in what we more commonly these days know as being Moria, which had its own different name. He names the area, he leaves. The first thing that he finds is Mirror, which is a kind of legendary lake for the Dwarves, because you stare into it and you can see the stars in the night sky behind you, even in the daylight. And Durin was... to describe Durin as legendary almost doesn't do him enough justice. Because he goes out, he looks in Mirror, he sees this star behind him, and he crowns his head, and he takes that basically as a divine emblem, that this is where he's going to build his city. And then he heads out, he has to unite different dwarves, he has to lead them through battles and all sorts, and he lives for this extremely grand age. And then they bury him in Moria, which is why Moria turns up so much. It's extremely important to dwarves. And I think his crown is tossed into Mirror. There awaits for him to wake up again. But it's just like, can you imagine living such a mythic life in a video game? That'd be beautiful. You could, and there's like clear room for tutorial as well. You wake up, you have to figure out, okay, I'm a dwarf, I speak Khuzdul, and push A to break open this door. Okay, got it. And then you can just have, like, you could scale it to epic battles, you'd have multiple stories, you could end it at a specific point, which is a problem that people seem to have these days, of not knowing when to end a story. It's like, no, characters have a growth, they have an arc, they have a conclusion, and then there's the end. Seriously, writers have known this for centuries, it's called the hero's journey. But there. Oh, we have 12 iron, ready to cook up. Let's cook that, shall we? And then we can probably make a bit more... Yeah, we can probably make some... Yep, more copper. A bunch more tin. Let's see if we can put together some bronze then, shall we, as well. Making more leather tunics. Good! Can we make any more cloth, out of curiosity? Yes we can. 25 from flax, 4 from wool, 4 from... Yeah. Leave that alone for the time being then. But just like, dwarves always seem more... They always seem a bit more grounded, which seems like a pun, and I promise you it isn't, because these are people who live underground and work with stone and all sorts. But they're always people who get serious when the situation demands it. They're always people who enjoy having a good time, and they're always working more with the physical than with the supernatural. Elves are always these magical things that can leap from trees and barely sway a branch. Humans, we all know humans. Dwarves are closer to humans than to elves. And humans are closer to dwarves than to elves. They're always these... They're like your cousin. They're your bulky cousin. Your short, bulky cousin that could punch your way through a cave and whatnot. And I don't know, maybe it's because I happen to be from the industrial portion of my country that I just identify with them more. I like that there's these guys that are so full of character flaws because they're always prideful, and they're often portrayed as being greedy and lustful for gold and such. But they have this stubbornness about them, this rock-headedness, if you will. And that one is a pun. That just allows them to do the impossible, and they always attempt the impossible, whether or not they actually know it's impossible. I think Gimli once says, certainty of death, small chance of success. What are we waiting for? It's like, he doesn't care. It's beautiful. Yeah, I guess that's another reason I like them, is they always seem to produce colourful characters. You've got the elves who always seem like 3 times more important than they might actually be. You've got the humans who are, okay, you're the filler character mostly. You're our baseline, that's why you're here, so the audience can relate. And then you've got the dwarves, who are there to, like, wreck things up and get things done. Potentially whilst hammered. Probably whilst hammered, let's be honest. I'm not seeing any villainous types, unless we count that chicken over there. Okay, here, at dusk. We should be good for tools for a fair while by now, I should think. Can I get rid of this? Stop. Ooh, no I can't. Next question, can I build another one to replace it so that I can get rid of it? Should be able to build that. Not get anyone stuck. I think I got to set up some more mining. Yeah, they're out. Yeah, maybe that's... I think that's probably why I like them most. They always seem steeped in legacy and lore and history. And yet they're always also these beautifully human kind of characters. Maybe a little bit more bombast, maybe a little bit more exaggerated kind of emotions, but they're always just... They're guys, you know? They always have these deep histories, but they're always just dudes. They're guys, they're miners, they're workers. They're blacksmiths and they're warriors. Maybe that's why. I'm saying that a lot, but... This is why it's fun to have these kind of conversations with yourself, so you can work out exactly why. Why do you have this particular preference? Why do you have this opinion? What is it about this that you like? And if you can figure that out, you can find other things that you like as well, easier. You can reevaluate why you like other things as well. I like the elves because they are magical and supernatural and otherworldly. And then I like the dwarves because they're us, just exaggerated. Well, it is getting towards bedtime here in Edgington. So, hopefully it'll be a quiet night. I'd like to see a quiet night. Now I have one person on our midday patrol. There is the question here of whether I should have a midnight patrol as well. Maybe that should be the same group, which would make sense because they have about half the actual patrol schedule right now of everybody else. But that is something that we can see about when we actually have more than one person. As it stands, I don't want to be sending one person out on the ruin as much as I can. Because that is how people die, as we saw. But, hope you've enjoyed this rambling moment, and maybe I'll try out a game or two that's actually like centered around dwarves. I know there are a couple of dwarf-based games out there, at least on Steam, that I could have a look at. And maybe that'll help me solidify my knowledge of myself a bit more on this subject. But anyways, I hope you've all enjoyed. Yeah, everybody's going to sleep now. And I shall, as always,